Hello and welcome. It is 11:15 p.m. Eastern, the 13th day of January 2021. My name is Derek, and this is the Money Charts channel, where, like always, all bets, trades, and other like. Well, that's within each his own risk and their own reward. I'm going to look at Bitcoin. I'm also going to be talking a lot about hockey, as a lot of what I'm predicting is coming true. And the opportunity to make risk-reward management decisions upon such is most certainly still in play heading into tomorrow or heading into the Thursday day. And that is, of course, goals being scored in the early sessions. Now, historically, in National Hockey League, goals have been scored. So I'm going to go over both, but I'll do hockey after Bitcoin. What I want to see with Bitcoin is for price action to hold and stay above. If it supports in here and establishes a support area in here, I think that's fine. But it's already established resistance once at 38,000 low change. So therefore, you already can tell just by looking at this that short term, you're gonna have some like decent retracements that are going to be need to be done. Yeah, a little bit here in the 15 and. On the 5, we got many lower highs now, so that's something where you see if it's able to get above that. That would be a big deal. And then, of course, like in the 1 minute time frame retracement from this high to this low, that would be that's where it stands. Of course, if Bitcoin's able to hold and stay at this higher area. And anyway, as it goes, that's really what I see. And if I see that, this really tells me that this is a failed selling point, as I stated in my previous video. That's really all I really have to say about Bitcoin. So therefore, if you're not interested in hockey, thank you for tuning in. But again, major opportunities are available right now in the National Hockey League. The first game was the Philadelphia Flyers taking on the Pittsburgh Penguins. 7-4 or something like that was the score, or 6-3. It was a high-scoring game. And the home team winning by multiple goals. And in the second game, the Toronto Maple Leafs defeating the Montreal Canadiens 4-3 in overtime, going over the total. And as well, and then I think it was 5-1 or 6-1 in the Tampa Bay and Chicago game. Goals were scored then, and then I was just listening today to Lawrence Pressman on Ranger Talk, and man, he nailed a lot of stuff today, including, well, he even said Montreal going to overtime, which was sick, but just what he was talking about with the Chicago Blackhawks impressed me a lot, and that stuff came into tuition. And even in the first period, St. Louis leading the Colorado Avalanche 2-1. Thankfully, on my fantasy level, this is what I love about fantasy is I don't want to give it too many secrets, but one of it is just being sharp near the end, getting late news information. And Hoffman was who's former Ottawa senator, was ruled out with moments before the game. So, and I actually heavily played Hoffman, so I just put Sundqvist as replacement, and he scores the first Blues goal. So it's like, okay, thank you. I even played him captain in one lineup. It's like, okay, come on, make it happen. Fantasy-wise, I'm doing fine, and I might even have a good day, but I'm also playing low stakes, so there's no bad situation, especially now that a couple of games have been finished. That can come in that's going to hurt the bankroll. And then, of course, a lot of it is because risk-rewards management is always job number one. But it does mean that these games are most likely going to continue to be high-scoring. Now, why would that be? And the reason why I pointed that out is because I can go on two levels, and then, of course, it gets amplified higher. The first level, well, that's the two things. Amplified higher is the second part. The first part is historic. If you look at the first 20, 30, 40, 50 games that the NHL season has, or the first 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days of the calendar season, you're going to you calculate how many goals were scored in those games. Take the goals of like 50, 60 games divided by the games played and get your average. And then you look at the average for what that entire season was, and every single season is about the same. like over what the year average is, meaning more goals are scored in the early games. It also makes it easier for teams to win by 2 goals or more in over scenarios compared to that of under scenarios when you're looking to lay a goal and a half on puck lines. Therefore, that is the first one. And then does that, you're getting into tune to start the season off. Goaltenders are just trying to really get in gear and get their reflexes into full tune and all those sort of deals. And it's just more goals. That's why if you see that grand salami of all the games to go over the total, it's like just take it over, whatever that number is. Oh, which game to take over tomorrow? I've played several different ones. I probably should just do every single one, but you can almost just take, it's almost like a dartboard. You can almost bet everyone if you wanted and just hope like that the long term is going to work in your favor. And this is going to be good for probably days, but the earlier the better. I mean, day 1 has already been decent already and will probably continue to be like day 2. I mean, a lot of games tomorrow. And that also means, more bets, of course. And then you have Friday, Saturday. It'll get worse and worse as goalies will get their first, second game. But normally the thing that amplifies it further, the second factor, is what makes this different compared to previous years. And, well, it means a lot of things, obviously. But the preseason games, none. I do want to say an X factor after this, however. There has been no preseason games. Now, teams could scrimmage with each other because with taxi squads and teams that they would send down to like the minors and such during the training camp, they have like 40 guys. They could put 2 teams together, so pretty much every team did that. But that's almost like exhibition games to a degree. There's not going to be too much contact. So Kuhn was on a breakaway with 11 minutes to play in the second period, so sorry for that. And I'm actually kind of cheering for that too, because I'm betting on Edmonton to win by multiple goals. And I'm not betting over the total in that game. I did go over the total for a small bet on the Colorado game, though. Okay. So with all of these extra goals, you got the training camp, as I'm saying. You're not really playing. It's like preseason. No hitting. And, I mean, that helps the goalies a bit. I mean, the not hitting doesn't affect them, of course. But you still get so much on the whole training of just doing a scrimmage game. So, therefore, normally you have 4 or 5 preseason games. Before, we'll say. Before, whatever, somewhere around that number. And therefore, a goalie will play 2 to 3 full games or 9 periods. 9, 10. So they'll have enough action where when the season starts, they'll be relatively not rusty. But right now, they are relatively rusty. And that's the big differential. There is no preseason. Here's that X factor I want to talk about. No, this is a double edged part. Meaning I can give you 2 factors why it's a little stronger than that was. Let's go back to August. McDavid's okay. So I don't know why I'm doing that. Edmonton's got a power play with 10 minutes left. McDavid was looking to score, but he had no chance really. McDavid goal really. I don't know if that would be good or not. Probably would actually, considering my bets. Of course, I got fantasy bets as well, which are in line, and I'll try not to do this as much as but it's going to be easier for me to do these videos when there's not much to do. For daily fantasy, for me, there's 3 games tomorrow, and I've already completed one of them. I've already done my work for it because I have all the information. The other 2 games, one is Vancouver and Edmonton. I'm watching that game now, so I got to watch all that game before I make lines tomorrow. But I can make those lines probably tomorrow morning or tonight, and then. I'm waiting for information on a player who got injured. Probably got injured during practice because he's ruled out, yet he practiced today. So now I got to find who his replacement is, and that's all I need to know. And then I can work on that. And that player is it's actually a jobber player. I'm just going through my notes. I already erased his name. Jones, number 49 on Anaheim. He's ruled out. He was supposed to be on the line with Getzlaf and Raquel. And in that Anaheim game, you got Milano, Henrique, and Silverberg on the line with Thienen, Steele, Terry, Grant, Rowney, Backus. These guys are garbage. And I believe anyway. When I say garbage, I mean they're an NHL level for the level that they're playing. On defense, they're going to bring up Cam Fowler. They picked up Shattenkirk, was pretty good. Lindholm, Hansen, Curran, who's a rookie. And Hakanpaa, I think he's a rookie too. I never heard of him. I still haven't wrote all the Vegas guys' names down yet, but I think Vegas is a big play tomorrow too. I mean, for the same reason that Lawrence Presman was saying that there should be a domination with Tampa Bay versus in the Tampa Bay game today. I think that's a domination game tomorrow as Vegas wins by many goals. On Friday, we're looking for Toronto to beat Ottawa by many goals. Saturday, I don't know about that game. I'm going to think Ottawa might beat Toronto on Saturday. We'll see. But goals are obviously monster, and if these goalies aren't playing, and even in the Toronto game, I noticed Anderson was a little shaky on that net, especially in that first period. Montreal got to those early goals that really helped me lose my goal and a half bet and give Montreal that point, to say the least. And help the game go over the total as well. And that's exactly the point for why you'd be making those plays. First period over totals, I think, are pretty interesting as well. First period overs. There's been a lot of first period goals I've been noticing today as well. So that's something to consider. Meaning you're betting that for there to be 2 goals or more. Betting over 1.5 goals. I think there can be tremendous value in doing something within that nature. Okay, what else do we have on the list for... Yeah, I think for several days, I think the games are going to remain high scoring. So yeah, back to the whole point of where it was, the X Factor for where it was back in the... Going back to the summer of last year, or a few months ago, what is the same or different? Well, basically the same about that compared to now as far as starting a season. That is, starting a season after a decent layoff, a very limited training camp. That's the same. No fans. That doesn't make a difference in the metagame, I don't think. But the fact that there was only one preseason game. There was one preseason game they had. So one of the teams played one of the teams they weren't playing early on. Montreal played Toronto. Philly played Pittsburgh. And I mean, my monkey brain can't remember those games. I remember 2 of them, actually. I just told you the 2. Dallas, who did they play? Did they play Boston or Colorado? No, they couldn't have played Boston. I can't remember. With that being said, they did play one. Now, I was watching one of the TV networks. I can't remember who the broadcaster's name was. I presume he's a former player. I don't know if he was a goalie. I hope he should have been because of the way he said it. But he was saying it takes like 5 to 7 games for a goalie to really get this thing back in gear. Well, if that was the case, that wasn't true from the playoffs last year. From the first game of the playoffs. Like the qualification games, all those like pre-games. Like once every team played one preseason game, then it got going. From game 1, it was low scoring after just one preseason game. So that tells me goalies don't need 5 to 7 games, I don't think. And if they do, maybe not every goalie. And I think in the case of hockey moving on, a good thing is to see for the first 3, 4, 5 days, which are the guys that are really hot and really cold and really play big, the early guys that are strong, and I just play the trend of the week, bearish and bullish basically on players. Guys that are strong could keep on playing. Guys that are like, oh my goodness, not looking so good, play that week. Now that was big for me in the playoffs last year, especially with some of the guys. Like the biggest one was there's a lot of players like it, but a lot of the guys that played weak usually couldn't go on. A few of them did. On the Dallas Stars, he's not even playing right now. Their top player, Claude Drew's on Philadelphia. Was horrible in the playoffs, and it was like you just couldn't really. I couldn't play him too much, and it kind of paid off. I'm trying to remember whose name, and this is me getting older. I forget obvious things so bad. And it's the top player on the Dallas Stars that struggled with, not Jamie Benn. Tyler Sagan, that's who it is. Jamie Benn was a little bit of a saving grace, and that second line did really well for Dallas in the playoffs. But it's just see who are good and bad, and just play that. That's going to be big for me when I'm looking at, especially in the fantasy realm, for specific players for me. But without any of this extra preseason, it's going to affect the skaters and all that, and some guys are going to just dominate from it and have huge advantages, where others, of course, are not going to. And in the Toronto game, I thought Toronto played really well today against, for the most part, but they did. I mean, a lot of like rusty mistakes I thought they kind of made, and those costly goals early on, especially on the. But they got 2 power play goals quickly back, just like back on them. Austin Matthews hit a big post. He had a lot of iffy chances, and he had a streak where he always dominated the first game. Kind of, whenever I play Austin Matthews on Classic Fantasy, I get burned like almost every single time. Austin Matthews, when I play him big in like 8 games or 7 games, he's got like 2 goals and 2 assists or something, or 2 goals and 1 assist or something. And that's just, it's kind of laughable and funny. But it's 11:30 right now. Just want to go over some of the information for any hockey fans that are into it. That it's one of the ones where you just like do what I call hammer bets, if you will. You bet a game. It's interesting. Soccer. I mean, it's funny. Soccer. I mean, what? Wow. I mean, I almost should like bet nothing on a non-hammer game, because the daily fantasy for soccer on Showdowns, I research every game based on Vegas bet lines. I mean, my computer could tell me when games are good or bad just simply based on the point spread, the over/under, and really the chances of every score that'll come up, and I'll know how good or bad a game is. And a couple days ago, my computer says one alerts me of a huge, great game. So I guess my mistake is I underbet it. And I really do think that was a mistake. I'm dealing with a bankroll of over 2,000. I bet like $55 on it. It won me back 260. And then the next game was no good. I bet like 10 on it, and I think I lost almost everything on it. And then a couple of games today, just neither one were so good. So I had $5 on each game. One game pretty much lost everything. One game lost or broke even or barely profited, and it was in a situation, was an alarming score, which is meaning it was a good score, but it was an alarming result if it got to it. This is what my computer was telling me, and it happened. Kind of interesting. So then that's because of a higher point spread and stuff like that. And then I'm looking at the games for the next like 5 days, 6 days on the European Soccer League. And all of them are bad to neutral, so it's just going to be small bets and risk-reward management. And I know I've been saying to my strategy, when I see a big game, hammer it hard, do a hammer bet. I'm still not 100% confident, though, that soccer is a profitable game, where, of course, I've been profiting with hockey for so long. Very excited that there's a brand new season that's being played now, and it's back to work as far as just being able to dominate, just be able to be like the best analyzer, handicapper, researcher, a fantasy player. And that's really the goal. Flipping back and forth through so many different games. I'm looking at the guide for tomorrow on my television. It's like, okay, there's like 8 games all at one time, and it's free for everybody at least on the satellite I have, which is, I think it's Bell, for a few days. But I mean, given the state I'm at, of course I'm going to pay to have access to every single hockey game. So I'll be able to flip through back and forth through different games is going to be magnificent. And what's awesome too is, 3 games were offered for tomorrow. And one of the things, the way the regular season worked last year, was it was usually like a game at 10 o'clock or 10:30. And the odd time, maybe an 8 or 8:30 game. On the weekends, you might have afternoon games, so I might get, like, on a Saturday, okay, I know what's going to be. It's going to be a 10 o'clock, 10:30 game, and like a 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock game. But there was 4 games today of the 5 that I was able to play on my major profitable level, which is a showdown, which is just betting the game individually, picking 6 guys on one game. I'm dominant at that game. I know how to make standings to see the best players, and I'm trying to dominate it this year. I did last year. And 4 games today out of 5. The only game there wasn't a showdown on was Pittsburgh, and I would have probably lost on that game if there was, although tough to say, because I could have profited well too. But 3 games tomorrow, and there usually is like 2 before. Like, so if there's more and more volume for me, then this will just be magnificent. I'll be able to have a higher rate of return that I should be able to get. Because one thing that it's a good luxury to have, but it's also a stake of having low minimum bets as well too, or low maximum bets. Low maximum bets is during the regular season. Oftentimes in a hockey game, the most I could bet on a game, and it could be like 120, 140, many times, even like around 180 or 200, 220. And if you're dealing with a 5-figure bankroll, and I don't mind betting near 10%, that's like over 1,000, of course. Well, that's low. That's higher, way higher than what the maximum is. So one thing that I've learned in the regular season last year, that I don't need to have any more than like 2,500, 3,000, 4,000 in my account, which is why I'm having a bankroll. If you see my bankroll on there, that's why my bankroll is that, because that's basically what I figured. I don't need any more than. If it gets way higher, I might as well just withdraw it, because why do I need to have someone else hold it for me? I don't like the fact on places like DraftKings and any of those places that hold your cash that they have to hold it. Because one thing I'd ask, let's just say, for example, you go to a place that you go to at least somewhat decently. It could be a casino, maybe even a Walmart type store that you just go to a lot, especially pawn shops and stuff like that. If you were to go in there, if you had the option to leave your cash there or bring it back with you, what are you going to do? Bring it back with you, or are you going to leave your cash or at the Walmart or at the casino? Now, technically speaking, if you're an everyday casino player, maybe you might be like, yeah, if it's secure and I'm 100% sure, that would be easier for me and all that. Yeah, it might be a good option for me. But throwing that aside, more times than not, yeah, I want to bring it back with me. So there's no need to have more funds in there than I need. But if I have to have no choice but to have them hold it, but long term it pays off for me because I bet, I win, I lose, I win, I lose, I lose, I win, I lose more than I win. I mean, win more than I lose. Duh. I hope I don't say that meaning it's going to be. And you know what? Actually, mathematically speaking, if you're good at this game, if you're barely good at this game, you're supposed to barely lose more than your win. Because you're going to have enough 4, 5, 6, 7, 8x gains, even 10x gains when you're playing tournament style games. More times than not. Just imagine if, say, for example, if you'd always play 4 tournaments in a day, and you look at like normal poker tournaments, 100 people, 400 people kind of deal, and you're damn good, or pretty good at least, then you're going to see over like 100 sessions, more sessions than not, you're usually going to lose. But you're going to win because one session you won 40 times and 10 times and 7 times. However, last year, mathematically in the regular season, I actually did. It was close. It was pretty much 50-50 last year in the regular season. And the playoffs, I won more than I lost in 4 games. And then when you win 4x and 7 and 8x, it's just magnificently largely high. So that's why I have it in play. But I also realize that in the playoffs this last year, that betting $2,500, $3,000, $4,000 in a day was there. And $3,000 bet. So if I do need a 5-figure bankroll to do that. So come playoff time, I need to do that. But when the playoffs started last time, I had like $1,000. And it took no time at all to get me into a very good 4 and then 5-figure bankroll. But the playoffs, is a lower scoring game. That's part of the X factor to like before it's a lower scoring game, and I like lower scoring hockey better than I do higher scoring overall. And it's just more profitable. Also, I could go. I went through four. It was just so amazing last year because I'm thinking, okay, this reason, this reason, this reason, and this reason is gonna work out for me. And then the bubble did different things like late game information news on this player. That would there was a lot of late game news info, and I'm expecting this to be a huge one for me this year. I mean, it is, the world is as it is in the whole current situation, but whenever I have info of players being ruled out relatively late and then replacements coming in, ka-ching. And if that happens more and more, ka-ching. When goalies are substituted, or when I say before the game starts, that is, when goalies are announced late, again, that is ka-ching. So more of that information is going to be coming into play. So therefore, I'm thinking that with that, it's going to work out well for what could be very, very decent sized profits. Also, when you get these types of information, I mean, sometimes you could, when you just see something that is profitable, I guess they call it your hustle, and that's what I'm kind of pretty much doing, as far as knowing that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people that play these games. Most of them, and practically virtually all of them, are your casual people, and they'll just come and they'll go. They'll spend very little time. Of course, I don't do anywhere near the spreadsheet work, and even most of the stuff I did today was all in a pen and paper, pencil really, because I had to erase stuff. And also, then you got other few top guys, and I know a few of their names. I'm not going to say any of them. But your goal is to beat both of them. And just go through different things. I've even thought of like a computer program. How do I write it? I think I know I can write it this way. Because I thought about doing a computer program because they have different like video games. I finally found out how the game CSGO or Counter-Strike Go scores the rules and different things. Oh, I'm thinking, once I heard that, I'd have to figure out or remember where I found it to be able to do it. I'm thinking, okay, now I know that I could actually get closer to writing a computer program, but how often does multi-kills happen in the game, and how accurate am I going to be in putting the likelihood of this guy, video game player, getting this, and that, and then once I thought those two things, no, not good. But can I write a computer hockey program that can literally simulate a hockey game over and over and over again and be damn good at it? For over a year now, I've thought of, I probably should do it. Would be a decent amount of work to a degree, but not that much. I mean, I've written a program before of multiple layers, like 5-6 different layers of blackjack. I figured out the perfect way to play. I figured out that this is the best thing about blackjack was the internet says that if you play perfect blackjack and it's a fresh deck, you're going to be a loser in the long term. And I disagree. When I say winner, it's extremely marginal. I can't remember if the number was a 6 or a 9 when I did my number. But based on the payouts that I was playing with at the time at an online casino, it was and it was not the greatest and wasn't the worst though either. But I mean, I wasn't allowed to surrender, so that was a disadvantage. So if I was allowed to surrender, my rates go up a bit. Not by much. There's only a couple surrender situations, but then I was after a split, I wasn't allowed to double. So just different couple things like that. And I calculated it was 0.06 or 0.09% long-term profit. Playing perfect. And I simulated over 100 million hands, I think. So it was just it was a lot. I mean, I simulated over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of hands. Sometimes I literally simulate a program and do something for a little while, or just leave. I'm leaving for 2 hours. Let me just run like 20 million simulations, 30 million, or 50 million, or depending on what I'm trying to do, and then I'll just get a whole bunch of numbers. So I can write a computer program where basically I'd insert every hockey player in the game, and then I'd have to give the likelihood of them scoring goals, blocking shots, empty net goals. There's so many reasons where I would need to use this. I mean, if I'm gonna make this program, it's gonna be for both daily fantasy and for sports betting. So a lot of this information, how can I capitalize on the information? I already know if I could, in any fantasy game, if you can simulate the game 100,000 times, even 1,000 times over, but a million times over, whatever. Simulate the game that many times over, and then after that, you can see, okay, what's the best perfect lineups? You can even go as far as in fantasy and say based on the ownerships. How much would I profit if I have this lineup, this lineup, this lineup, this lineup, and that lineup with computer programs like that? And that's the type of levels where I really do need to move towards if I want to become, as like they say, the GOAT, as they say, the greatest of all time. And maybe the greatest of all time for me saying this as far as hockey research. And then using it on multiple different fronts, because dominate the fantasy game, and then dominate the sports betting game. That really where it comes down to. I've even thought about, okay, what about and how do I link this? Because get like a top end video game system, and then you just simulate the games on the video game over and over and over again. But how do I get that data put into my computer? I know if I wrote the computer, that's easy because I'm writing the program. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.